Woo! We're live. What's up, American Gods fans? We are back in a way. You know, it's digital because Technical Boy helped us out and kind of messed us up. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of both. My name is Kari Lane, and I'm so glad to be reunited with. Wait, point this way. There we go. Lobito in the house.
What's up? Always a pleasure to be with the Kari Lane. If you guys don't know about Kari, she taught me everything it is to know about hosting, and I got to work with her once again, so I appreciate that.
Yay. There we go. I was putting up our handles so people can go see
great.
like that. Yay. Nice. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. That was like one of the big first shows for you, and I'm so glad I got to be part of it. And I'm glad it was American Gods. It was a fun show to talk about,
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, some changes happening in season 3. We'll get to all of that.
Right. Yes. Well, what do you think about the start of season 3? We watched it, on our own. So what do you think of Season 3, Episode 1, A Winter's Tale?
Yeah, first thing that sticks in my mind is, wow, Shadow has hair now? I don't know how I feel about this. I thought we were kindred spirits. We kind of left the Ballhead gang. No, it was actually, I had concerns going into Season 3 whether or not the show can keep up the momentum of the old god versus new gods. There hasn't really been a different big bad. It's been the same team-based warfare, so I was a little concerned going into it. But there's enough new mysteries here with like the lakeside and Shadow really coming to grips with his relationship that makes me go, okay, I'm on board for one more ride, sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a while, so I was like, okay, let's see how this is going to kick off. I was a tiny bit underwhelmed in terms of like, okay, like I feel this is definitely just laying out the groundwork, of just here's some really cool interest, and there was some definitely cool stuff which we'll get to, but it was, like it was a very subtle kind of episode, like it's not. There were some big things, but it wasn't necessarily one of the episodes where you're like, oh, wow,
That was very
like
similar to last year. Remember, they had the meeting, and then that one scene was great, but all that build up, it was kind of like, all right, I'm all right. Yeah. Second gear.
Definitely, yeah. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. Comment down below. The beginning though, I don't think I realized it when I watched it, but did you realize that's Marilyn Manson as one of the guys in the heavy metal screamer band?
I did not. That makes so much sense. I was like, he had kind of a vibe about him, but that's the actual Marilyn. I don't know if that makes me old.
I realized, I guess I had always more associated Marilyn Manson with more just music and not as an actor, but he's really good on Salem. If y'all haven't watched Salem, go check it out. Really fun show, and he's a super interesting and kind of quirky character in that. But yeah, so at the beginning we get our Odin, our Mr. Wednesday, at this like heavy metal, death metal concert, which actually totally makes sense for God of War and like that kind of energy.
Yeah, man. I mean, I want to know how he walks the door with all that fur and leather. But Mr. Wednesday looking all svelte,
He's just yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a rock person, but anytime I can imagine having a room of people chanting my name must be pretty sick.
Yeah, I was definitely like, this is such an interesting way to start. So yeah, it's Johan is in the credits. It was like Marilyn Manson. I'm like, oh, of course.
That is nice.
But that was definitely a fun way to start. We get Shadow with a different name at the beginning, and then I kind of had a moment of like, wait, did we shift in time? Did something happen? Did he lose memory? Because it really made me nervous at first, because some shows do that. But it's like, no, he's just hiding, which is, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. But it made me nervous.
I really thought the end of last season when he got the alias on his ID, I thought that was going to be just for that purpose, just to get the past the cops for that thing. Yeah. But now it opens up. He has a new job. He's flirting with coworkers.
He's flirting, yeah.
I was like,
okay. I like that girl being so like, hey, what's up? I was like, I like this energy. And he's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, living his life. He's still technically married, kind of, but it's like, whatever.
Well, yeah, I think he's moved on, and, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Oh.
Quite literally.
Yeah. What was it? Because we get, speaking of, so he's in Milwaukee.
Yes.
Yes.
It's wintertime.
We got our ex our ex-lover lady hanging out with Bridget and pretty much not really have any luck with the resurrection. Oh, I was so annoyed that coin just rolled off, and I was like,
oh, yeah. Okay. So the whole coin thing, it was like, oh, it makes perfect sense. Here's a story. The guy, Sweeney, is all knocked out, dead on the slab. She's gonna save the day, and I was like, man, the ultimate sacrifice. But
dead wife is gonna pull through. Dead wife.
Yeah, dead wife. It's gonna pull through, and then I had a moment of going like, "Oh my goodness, the coin! What's gonna happen?" But now it's out of the vessel. I'm not sure how's it going to play into this, but oh my gosh, our wife is gone.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's a great and lame way to kind of get rid of her. That I'm like, I feel like she's done. Like that's, we did learn in this season that it starts off that there's a lot of characters that were like, we've moved on to other actors. It's one of those like. And some really cool, and some are like, okay. I think it's a bummer for her character to be gone, but I guess she has served her purpose up till this point. I don't know for our mighty leprechaun what will be next. I really wanted him to come back because it was just so much of a bummer that he died. I'm like,
true. So you're talking this earlier because you read the books or the book.
I need to go back, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think Mad Sweeney had a similar fate here, but with the coin out of play, there is a sliver of hope. Well,
that's what I was wondering. Is someone just going to come by and like, why would they think to put it on him? So that's where I'm like,
yeah,
what?
I'm just in the neighborhood walking through mausoleums.
Just pick up things.
Yeah.
Well, I just had a moment of like, well, maybe Bridget would come by and know, but I don't think they're in like that. They were here and they've gone. Dead wife went over here, somewhere else. That I don't know if Bridget would know, but
that'd be the only person I can think of that's even close by.
Yeah, or even who'd understand what's going on.
Yeah. Or Baron himself, Baron Samedi himself to do that. But to me, I guess my brain was telling me Sweeney comes back instantly. But now this has another wrinkle here because why go through the trouble of showing us that storyline just to drop it,
I really hope it does come back to it because it is weird. Or maybe we'll get an introduction of somebody else too who finds the coin, like somebody interesting or another god. Who knows? We'll see. Hello, Ms. World. Oh, okay. That was a change. I was like, yes, okay, I am here for it. Dominique Jackson.
Glover at all.
Mm-hmm. And then it was just, so what did you think of the introduction of now Ms. World?
So this is one of the few times where I kind of wish I did not do captions. I do captions when I watch shows that I review because I want to make sure I don't miss things like pronunciation or anything like that. And so as soon as it was like Ms. World, I was like, but what about Mr. World? Because, Mr. World's all hushed tones and getting things out and being more cerebral. This is cerebral, but turned up to someone who's willing to get her hands dirty, quite literally, if someone crosses her. So I'm cool with the dynamic. I'm not quite sold on the performance quite yet because it's such a departure from Mr. World, but I'm sure they'll probably make more sense as this season progresses. Yes.
And then are you familiar with Pose and watched Dominique in that show?
I have not seen Pose, but I think I should check it out. Yeah, I think you're like it was dope.
Yeah, if anybody watching this, if you haven't watched Pose, it's an amazing, incredible show. Dominique is a similar vibe character of do not mess with her. She will destroy you in a different kind of way, and she's wonderfully ferocious. Not with bats, but she will destroy you with her words. I only recently watched it. So for me, it was so exciting to see her of like, oh, yes, because she just has a presence about her.
Yes.
That you do not fuck with her. Nope.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel that's an appropriate course for World from before and now of just so tired of people not getting stuff done and taking action into their own hands. And like you said, literally okay with getting their hands dirty. And I just thought that was so good. I'm like, ooh, okay, I like that.
I think you hit the nail on the head. As much as Mr. World was so different than Ms. World, I think by the end of season 2, not knocking Crispin Glover or the acting
Yeah.
about it, but he was kind of like too handoffish for his own good. I felt like
Yeah.
too many aspects of this master plan was being delegated to others, and of course, due to one thing or the other, they hadn't got any further, so you needed someone a little bit hands-on. And usually in TV shows, they bring in like the top brass or Mr. World or top level boss, but it's cool the boss actually manifests into something else. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see this dynamic. It's going to take me a time to understand that this is the same essence, but I do think this season specifically, on the premise of the show, need to turn up the stakes to make us realize whether or not it's going to be one of the great shows, the good shows, legendary shows, or it was fine for a while.
Well, I mean, we've seen the evolving of a character / changing of actor with media to new media. And
Yes.
that one made sense on like a literal practical sense of like current world is new media. World to Mr. World to Ms. World makes sense. And I love the almost meta-ness of Technical Boy saying, white male is, so not the thing now.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love the change.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I like this show being meta. That was very fun.
It's trending, or it's not trending.
Yes. Yeah. And there, good point. Well, actually, speaking of that, I love the quote. I wrote it down of, make them give a fuck about what we say is important and control the narrative, which is such a powerful and very always contemporary with anything social media, talking about where are you getting your information, how is the narrative being controlled, and it's Social Dilemma. Go watch that documentary. That's also really good too.
Netflix.
So yeah, I like that they talk about that as well, of like literally a force that is driving, let's show them a cat video. They're going to forget all about it. They're not going to care about Odin. So
when I was a kid, it was always, the victors write the history books and you can interpret things. But now everything is beyond that news cycle. You have an event in real time, and you can pick and choose 4 or 5 different outlets and predict what position they'll take out of the same news event. So yeah, controlling the narrative, the controlling information is always going to be, I guess, the true new god if you had to put everything into one bucket.
Yeah, it's just with social media and so many sources of people adding to it. I'm curious if social media itself would be a god, which we're seeing, because then it breaks it down to like the literal technical boy. Like he is more the representation of the, like my phone, like he is the technical aspect of it, but then what you do with that is its own god too.
True.
But there is like, where's our new media essence? We need that back too.
Agreed.
It feels weird. I'm like, where are they?
Yeah, I think social media is a conduit, but yeah, there's a technical aspect, because he said he gave Bill Cush the Sheba app, and that's not a social media network, but that is an app. But if new media was like the news aspect, social media would be the conduit, the platform, or the cathedral, if you will. Yeah.
Which they're trying to, as Ms. World is saying, they're trying to build like a new place of worship, essentially, which I don't know, we're there a lot of people worshiping different things for sure, and heavily invested. You're just like, I'm doing my one thing, I'm not going to think anything else. And, it's like, okay.
Yeah, you get into your own denomination, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Back Shadow and Wednesday, man, what did you think about the old lady being the messenger, or Wednesday himself bugging Shadow? I thought that was pretty funny. I'll admit I didn't see that coming at first, and then I'm like, okay, Odin, okay.
Kari, like, funny? I was terrified. I was scared because he was helping her out. Her dad passed away. And she changes her voice. I was like, yo, seriously? If I was on something, I would be like, yo, stop the tape. That is my worst nightmare come to pass. Yeah, it was interesting. It got my attention, but I was spooked.
That's fair, yeah. It's one of those creepy children and creepy old people. It can definitely work well in media. Something where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I trust them. Right. But I thought it's more amusing that Wednesday used that vessel and like flipped him off when they're leaving and everything. I wasn't 100% sure if it was literally someone possessed by him, like that he piggybacked on them as their essence, because at the end there was no sense of like, oh, what's going on? Right. Or was it like him in that form? I don't think they really told you, but either way works is interesting.
Yeah, I'd be kind of weird if he left and then the lady flipped him off. Like that was the pure essence.
He's like, I like you. Yeah.
Oh, it is in Milwaukee. I'll never visit now. I'll never visit.
Right. And then they get the diner and they get caught up on the 20 questions. It was kind of nice to have that too, of helpful. Like, okay, so my mom, what did you think of that conversation?
It was very helpful. I mean, it's always this problem from a writing standpoint when you establish top of a season of like, okay, how much are we going to rely on the audience to binge everything before versus giving us a refresher? Those people who read the book. And remember, you and I had this discussion at the end of season 2 in the after show. You remember you were asking me like, what do you think happened? Because it was stated, but not super vague, but the recap made it super vague. So now we know the stake. Shadow knows for a fact that he's Odin's kid. And even though we don't quite understand the relationship of his mom, or whether or not Odin really loved her, or if he's picking up just another young fiance, as we'll get to later, that's to be determined. But now I think that puts Shadow and the audience back on the same playing field. So I was fine with it. It was pretty cool.
Well, it's also nice.
What was he eating?
I was going to guess oatmeal. Yeah, it felt like oatmeal, like a bowl. Like
just like sloppily.
Yeah. Boring oatmeal. He didn't add anything to it. I think also it was nice to get some of the rules, because he's like, well, why didn't you go after my mom? And Odin's like, well, if I leave these shores, I cease to exist. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I think we knew that already, but the way he said it, I'm like, is this information for later that we need to like remember, you know?
Absolutely.
Could you drag a god off the shores? Like literally, could you like put them on a plane, put them on a boat, and like destroy them that way? Is that a way to get rid of them?
I guess that'd be in theory, but that'd be kind of cheap. You know? Come to my boat casino.
No, totally.
3 miles offshore.
We're in international waters now. Yeah. So excuse me. I felt it was nice to have Shadow have a moment to ask questions that he probably wanted to know and get a little bit of info, even if he wasn't thrilled with the answers. And then we learn Odin is like, oh, she was too young and I'm just me. So it's like, okay. But at least we know it's out on the table, you know.
Yeah, literally. It's on brand. If you go back to season 2, the way he treated his son, also very kind of like matter-of-factly. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yes. Then we get a moment of... Oh, I don't remember who said it. It might have been their conversation, but I like the thing that referring to technology in general, humanity indulge with its most destructive impulse. And I just thought that was really kind of interesting. Like, you know, the show is interesting in and of itself, but I do like the meta commentary on us as people, which, you know, also it is, you know, still from the book, but how they've adapted it to as current technology and stuff today too.
Can we address the 900,000-pound gorilla in the room, or is it elephant? I don't know what it is.
Sure,
because usually the heart and soul, the knowledge dropper was Mr. Nancy, and Mr. Nancy's not going to be in this season. And I noticed they have some moments where I felt Nancy would have totally slotted in and give us the science and give us the business, but he wasn't quite there. I'm not sure how you feel about it, if you even noticed, or if you think it's going to be sorely missed, but I felt it in this one for sure.
Well, I do not remember this specific article, but I do remember early speculations on noticing that there are far less people of color on this show as characters, which we have commented on previous seasons as well. And I mean, yes, our main character, but it's still like, giving you the side eye, American Gods, a little bit, especially if those characters disappear. And if this is an issue with the actor, and the actor has whatever reason that they do or don't want to come back, can or can't come back. And it's like you can't watch anything, movie or show, without knowing that in the back of your head as well. And I don't remember when, but I think way early on we had seen something where it was talking about who's coming back or not. And it is one of those, like, you sit back and you're like, well, why aren't they? You know?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. We'll see.
We need them. I still clipped out that Snatch promo. I'm a wrestling fan. Sorry. That monologue. I still clip that out and show people. If you haven't seen American Gods, check this out. And that has opened up this show to so many different people from all walks of life, because it was the perfect balance of this idea of gods versus gods and making it relevant for us. And we sorely missed. I mean, I felt like there was some opportunities today on this week's episode. It could have been like Nancy Fire.
or it's one of those things, if you're not going to get rid of a character, you need to give us somebody to fill in that space that's missing, kind of. Yeah. So it's like, we'll see. I'll see. That maybe that's why it also felt like something was missing on this episode, that didn't have that punch, didn't have that oomph. And like Nancy really brought that kind of pizzazz to the show, like his own charisma as the actor and the character, and information, and getting it through people's head, the information. So it's like, okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Withhold judgment.
Yes. Oh yeah. This is back with Miss World and technology. Come back to that just gonna call him Tech Boy. I like this moment. He's like, we chill, and I love Ms. World had the receipts.
Yes.
Da 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 da, and he's like, okay, good point. You don't need to keep going.
Yeah. Please don't bash my face in. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, but perhaps he had the wherewithal to ask. He could have been walking around all willy-nilly. You know what I mean? Just not unaware. But I think it's really important that we see in that scene, that boardroom scene, which we talked about this too earlier, other episodes, how important Bilquis is to this balance. She's a chip that both sides need. And we saw later, he's like, we need her. We need her. Do it my way. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure she's with us. And, well, she has her own motivations. We'll probably get to that in just quite a second. But I thought it was pretty awesome that even at this point, even though we have a brand new Ms. World and a more violent or direct approach, the tactic of finding an old god to flip is so important for this team.
I'm also curious at this point how many of the old gods exist in the world. Like, essentially, is there a directory? Can we see who's still there? You know, kind of a thing. Because we meet a couple small pieces, small moments so far, and at least in this episode too, that you're just like, are there more? Can we tell? Like, even if it's in the book, we don't know what they'll pull into the show or not. True. So I'm curious to see if I love meeting other gods in the show for sure too. Of like, tell me the mythology and like the legends and this history. So we'll see. But yes, thank you. Speaking of Bilquis, I like that Tech Boy goes to her and he's like, you've thrived on this app, and she wants to remain neutral. I love her new digs. It looks great. And looks like she's doing well. What did you think of the dialogue conversation, the difference between a John and a worshiper, of not a prostitute or not? And I was like, that's actually a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, because, her way of worship is very physical and intimate. And in a lot of ways, when we are devout, we do worship full tilt with all heart and soul. So there are parallels there, although I would not mention that at Thanksgiving dinner to my family.
This might be an awkward conversation, but...
We're all whores, right, family? And we'll get part of the way. But it is interesting that, because there is a bit of stigma there. We saw the first episode of the first season when Sheba had that one client, when Bill had that one client, you go... oh, is this like is she going to worship through sex? But it's actually more than that. Everyone who comes is on their own volition. Yeah, they're all worshiping, so...
I'm sorry.
I got it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, hey.
No, nobody goes to her kind of unawares. They understand, I think. Yeah. I mean, for me, it does seem like you lose who you are. That I'm like, ugh. But I mean, essentially, you're in the eternal state of bliss.
Yeah.
Like, but I think she's a really interesting character. I hope we get to explore her character more and go into her motivations. I like that she's trying to remain neutral, but it does feel like this is not a space you can be. So we'll see.
Yeah, but it's also interesting, too, because if I was an old god, I don't know why that would be the case. But if I were, right, you would think by just the fact that I am old, I'll go with my old homies and ride through. But we're seeing, like, there isn't much benefit to picking the old side, and there's also much benefit for picking the new side, because, like Bilquis says, war just begats more war. So, like,
thank you. Yeah.
I would be neutral, but the point is, what's the advantage of being neutral? Is inaction going to be her downfall? That's the question I have. Or will it be the best course of action?
Well, actually, that's a good point too, because she makes a huge issue, or one of her biggest things of like, war is not good, and have you been there? And I love that she put Technical Boy through that experience. I was like, oh, and he's just like, what did you do? And so it's kind
Yeah.
of cool to see a different way to use her powers. You're like, oh, can we see more? Like what else can you do?
Yeah, I agree. I felt like that was something I didn't see or notice, and I didn't know that it was Technical Boy going the thing at first. I was like, well, where is he going? But after seeing him, like, well, does she have that kind of empathy or can
Mm.
transfer empathy to someone else? But I remember we had Bill Clinton on the show last season, and she's like working with Technical Boy is like actually one of her favorites because he approaches his character so well. So I bet the scene was so much fun to be like, I'm gonna give you war, poke, poke, poke. You know?
It's like, and he falls to the ground. It's just like, but yeah, I
Yeah,
thought so cool.
yeah.
And I hope we explore more of the powers because it's also a way to have like powers on a show without doing crazy special effects, you know, because some shows it's unfortunate they shy away from showing. I do air quotes because it's like, well, powers, because it's literally budget or whatnot, but there are effective ways to convey otherworldliness and like beyond human capability without being like multi-billion-dollar budget. So it's like,
True.
can we see more, please? Come on.
Yeah.
Also, then we have, yes, another last bit that we of like our crazy road trip is speaking of road trip, Betty is okay. The car
Hey.
is able to change forms essentially, which was cool.
Yeah, but that trailer
Yeah.
was not cool. I wouldn't drive that if you paid me, Karen.
Well, it's Shadow's trying to get away from the FBI who've come to his home, so it's like,
Right?
all right, hop in the RV, yo, come on, let's go.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I was like, that's fine. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then they go to they're gonna go talk to a character, which actually, so I was looking this up. So it's Whiskey Jack, but technically that's kind of like an abomination of the name.
Mm.
It is Wiz. I'm gonna hold on. I'm spelling out Wiz. I'm gonna hold on, getting it. K-E-D-J-A-K. I didn't have this saved on my phone. There we go. All right. So the character that person is representing, so that's Graham Green, and sorry if I mispronounced last name. So it's Wiskajek and Wiz. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So it's spelled Wisakedjak. So it almost sounds like Whiskey Jack.
Yeah.
But I was reading something that essentially saying it as Whiskey Jack is not, clearly what the native peoples called that person. But it is like how the name has been changed. So I thought that was
Corrupted
really
or
interesting.
anglicanized. Yeah.
And there's different ways to spell it too. I was looking that up too. But I thought that was really interesting. And I like that we get to see this new character. I love that the forest is inside his RV. That was super cool. And I loved his no nonsense attitude with Wednesday. He's like, nope, Woden, you are not welcome here. Go away.
Yeah.
And him telling Shadow essentially like a prophecy, there's more to this that you need to do. So I really liked his presence, and I hope we either get to see him again, which I don't know, it might just be one of these characters like, here, I'm gonna guide you along the way, which is one of those like, okay.
Right.
But then do we get more later?
It's almost like how we have money in the last season. Oh, this is a great character, and it kind of goes away.
Yeah, like,
I'm not Native American or First Nation or any of that, but I always wonder, as a student of film, as I was when I was younger, and I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. What was I thinking? I'm always interested of how Native characters are portrayed on television, and it could have been very paint by numbers, speaking very distantly, using mixed metaphors to get a point across. But the show does subvert that and has this kind of modern bluntness to things. I don't like you, Wednesday, or how should I know what to do? I'm just a guy sitting here. I thought it was so cool and so refreshing. I didn't try to be anything that was offensive or
and then your people came here and killed mine. I did appreciate that too. It's like, yes, the Vikings did come here and kill a lot of natives. Hey now.
Mm-hmm. Timely.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily go super in deep in when I was looking at, but I was looking at that character. Also, he's listed also similar to trickster gods too. So, or also similar to coyote in other tribes too. So I thought that was really interesting. And then just my quick research. So I'm no expert on this. Is that being is associated also with the Cree and. Yeah. So I was curious what tribes and everything, but it does sound like similar other tribes have similar concepts of that person. So I thought that was really interesting. Actually, wait, I'm going to see if I can show this up to my... I found this as a... Let's see. Hold on. We'll see if it shows up. So that's like a picture I found too.
Ooh. Yeah.
So it's like, that's interesting. But yes, please share your knowledge of... If you have mystery and information on mythology, please let us know as well. We're just super fans of the show, and
that's always a treat about the series. Yes. Just all the different gods and the interpretation of it. My favorite is always going to be Columbia. I always thought that we should bring that back, but I love their episode. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have an appreciation of mythology and legends and everything, but it's definitely there's so much out there. It's like hard to know everything. So I always like that the show presents it in the way they do. And then speaking of that, of a character presenting, we meet Cordelia. We're like, wait a minute, who is this? What are you doing? And fiance. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know. We didn't really get a sense of what she is, did we? I feel we didn't really get a who and what she is, but I don't think she's just gonna be some human.
Yeah, we don't know who she is or what she is, but it definitely kind of underscores Shadow's insecurity about his mother, right? Mm-hmm. Here's somebody who can get women in their prime or very younger than he was, and it seems like, oh, you didn't mention her, so I can't tell if you love this woman.
Yep.
So I'm sure like it's not for the male gaze, but I do think Shadow took that first interaction and was kind of like, who are you, man? You know.
Well, and it's also not just like she's just some lover; she's his fiance. So it's like, what? Huh? Yeah. And it feels interesting that Odin takes a fiance. It's like I thought he would just have a bunch of lovers.
Well, that's
like, wait, what?
Yeah. I guess he's romantic. I didn't give him credit for it.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see on that one.
To give Strato a hat. I mean, she can't be all that bad.
Oh, I did like the hat. That was cute. Which, speaking of the hat, then he goes to a very cold place. He goes over to Lakeside, Wisconsin. And I was really kind of concerned for him at the end of this episode. So first he gets there and he's just like, wait, where am I? I love the video store, the lady. And it's just, well, I mean, it's not a video store, but it's, you know, just like a general store. And they have the video DVD wall, which I was like, aw.
Yeah.
If you don't have that nostalgia, I'm sorry, you don't get to feel that.
I remember video store back in my day. Yeah.
Right. And so he gets to go somewhere to stay, and of course it's like the sheriff who takes him there, and it was one of those like, uh-oh, and you know he's freaking out, and then the key breaks, which I really feel like this is just this like snowball of events. Like I feel that probably was fate. You know, on purpose, and ends up at this other place, and the gun behind him, which I feel is probably just gonna be the owner of the home, and is like, "What the fuck are you doing on my porch?"
Right.
You know.
That's yeah. It comes back gunshot.
Yeah.
I was scared the entire time. After seeing that old lady in the first part of the show, like I thought every old woman was going to turn this guy. Yeah.
I don't trust anybody.
Is it going to be the cop? Is it going to be? I didn't know. I mean, it was me. It was tense the entire time because someone was way too nice. In the middle of nowhere, offering coffee. It's like, is it coffee poison? Are there things? Is it going to be like one of those open books things with like a lawn book, like stick in? I had no idea. I am glad he was safe up until the apartment, but it does raise a bunch of questions. The apartment was in the other person's name, 6 months prepaid. Why? Why does the key break? There's always a reason for things like that. Mm-hmm. Will we see more gods in Lakeside? Why is Lakeside the destination?
Yeah, why there?
Why Wisconsin in the middle of the winter? We don't know.
Yeah, in the snow, and poor Shadow is not ready for that, and they're like, "Oh, get yourself a coat." I don't think he's generally been. I was aware. Well, they've crisscrossed America, so it's not like he's only used to warm weather. But yeah he's definitely not ready for that weather.
The one bus out of town had to go back there.
Oh yeah, I love the like. Let me take a bus. Nope. It's one of those. Fine, I'll go where he told me to go.
Right. With my key and my
and then of course it's magical. So it was like So I think it was definitely on purpose of his destiny to have it break and get somewhere else. So we'll see who's at this place he ends up at. Is there anything we didn't talk about on this episode that you wanted to address?
I think we cover everything because the last notes I have here is cold ass town Lakeside. that's a high quality note taking right there.
Yes.
No, it was a solid episode. Of course, I guess I was expecting fireworks. Usually the formula is big event to start, big to end. But I think there's enough mystery here. Like I want to know where Shadow is. I want to know where Mama G is. Is she coming back? Because she was in the recap of season 2, where Bill Quist and so I'm on board. I'm on board. It is a solid entry, not like a wow. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think you described it pretty much exactly how I feel about it. And it's a better way to maybe look at it that's more right now a mystery rather than like action-packed beginning. It's like a lot of really interesting pieces are being laid out on the board, and we're just kind of like, how does this all come together and what's going to happen next? It's nice to see familiar faces, nice to meet new ones. So I'm really curious to see where it goes. It's not a very long season, so it is one of those things that this show gets going pretty quickly, and it does like its slow burn. So I'm like, okay, cool. I dig it. I look forward to it. It's a show that's very engaging and intriguing, so I'll be tuning in for sure. So
absolutely, so will I.
Yes, awesome. I think that would be our discussion on American Gods. If you watch the episode, which I would really hope you watch that before we watched us. Otherwise, we spoiled like everything for you. Unless you like that, because there are some people who do. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the episode again? Comment down below. Make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button, notification bell so you don't miss it. And we'll be doing these weekly, talking about the episode. So if you didn't get to join us live, it'll be like probably Sunday evenings-ish, but we'll be tweeting about it. And you can find us. Let's get to that. Boom. So you can find us here. So you can follow me online at Kari Lane on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow Flobo
at Flobo Boyce on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Yeah. So we'll be tweeting about it, of course. So make sure to follow us there so you can be up to date. Tell your friends who watch American Gods as well. And join the discussion. So we have a live chat too to, really dive into this show because it has a lot going on. Even if it is like a more subtle episode for the first one, there's still a lot going on.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Nice. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, not at all. Oh,
yeah.
If you're not following Kari Lane on Twitter, you should do that. Besides hitting her for questions,
go follow Flobo too, because you have another, you have an interview. Plug your interview that you're going to be doing too.
Oh, yes. Just about 15 minutes from now, I'm going to be on this content creator kind of panel with James Lott Jr. and Tony Moore and Jack Farmer. It's going to be a grand old time.
Yay! Awesome. Go check that out. And then also, of course, it's like, duh. On my channel, if you're an anime fan, I cover Sword Art Online and just had a panel with a few of the voice actors of the show. Super fun. So go check that out on, you'll find that link, or you're here on YouTube. So go look on the channel. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. And thank you, Flobo. It was super fun talking American Gods with you. So yay. Tune in next time. We'll see you all next week. And outro.